Welcome back, everybody. Here we are for some more chess. And sometimes I've noticed that I often say, "Oh, here we have another quick game," or blah blah blah. And I'm just like, hold on, all of these videos are like 30 minutes long. These aren't quick, so I don't know why I say that. It just kind of comes out. So I promise you, this time it will be quick. I don't know what the final video times are going to be, but this is not one game. This video has 4 games in it. That means they're pretty quick. None of them are really worth their own video, but there's just some crazy offense going on in these games, so I just wanted to upload all of them kind of as like a composite multi-video because they're just, that's the way they are. So let's get started on this first one down here. And pretty standard starts. King's pawn, horse, horse, bishop, going into the Italian game. And I decided to go after his unprotected pawn as opposed to bringing out my own bishop and just continuing to copy. So it's a slightly different thing. And he, in a good way, well, in a way, he recognizes that my horse is now blocked off this square from the queen, which puts him in perfect position for fried liver. This is exactly what people who like to play fried liver want to see. I guess you could say I fell into the trap. But at the same time, fried liver doesn't work against players who are good. And I don't necessarily know everything to do about it that I would be so confident as to let it happen all the time. Like I say many times, this is correspondence chess. I'm going to take some time to figure it out. So I decide, you know what? Have it. You can have your fried liver. I don't care. I'm just going to bring my bishop out anyway and develop it and target this nice little square and see what shenanigans I can make happen. Do it. Take that pawn. I dare you. So he takes it with the horse. Now, when people learn fried liver, they always learn it to take with the horse because then you can take the rook. And people will move the queen somewhere, you take the rook, and hey, you're getting a better piece. In a way, it's actually better. It's actually better to take. I guess you could argue it's all whatever the same. To take with the bishop and force check, because then the king has to go somewhere awkward, either blocking in his rook. Or blocking in his own queen, and then whenever it's no longer safe, you can just retreat all the way immediately. You're in a nice little safe square. The king's castle is messed up, his defense is messed up a little bit, he's blocking in some other piece a little bit, so you get much less material for it, but in a way, it's kind of superior because you mess them up at the same time too. When the horse goes in, and even if you let it happen and the horse does take, you know what, this rook wasn't playing in the game anyway, and when the horse is in the corner, he's not playing anyway either. So yeah, you lose it, but they've now spent 1, 2, 3, 4 horse moves, and I've been able to, well, hopefully take advantage of all that extra time by doing other stuff. So that's kind of the theory behind why it's not as superior against really high-level play, because they can use that time of your 4 moves against you. Whereas most people, myself generally speaking included, cannot. So I decided, just like a video I uploaded recently, well, I don't know how recently, but one of the past few videos, the same kind of scenario happened where I spoke at length about how much I hated when people take this pawn with an unprotected piece and sacrifice it just to mess the king up. And I thought, you know what, it worked out alright in that video. Let's go for it again. Even though the purpose isn't going to be exactly the same since this horse is no longer here, I've got another idea. I'm going to kind of go about it in the same way because I expect him to take that. If he doesn't take it, we'll see. Maybe I can do some other shenanigans around. We'll figure something out perhaps. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so he does of course take it because most people do, and it appears to be free. So he takes it, I go for the nice unprotected pawn with check, and that opens up a lot of my space as well. He decides to go after my unprotected horse towards the center of the field. I'm not sure if that's better than bunkering down in your own little hole and blocking in the rook. I really don't know. But there's a couple of things. Obviously this guy is still attacking my queen and my rook, so I pretty much have to move my queen. Don't really care about the horse at this point. Obviously I would like to save it too, so how can I really save it from here? I'm going to throw my queen all the way up to the top of the screen, knowing full well he's probably just going to push this pawn, so that makes things really kind of interesting for me. I'd like to move my queen there. He's probably going to move his pawn there. Oh yeah, I learned the blue circle instead of the green circle. He's probably going to put his pawn there to block me off, and then I still have to move something. I'd like to target this square if my queen can stay safely on this green circle, because then I'm obviously attacking his queen as well with a nice free bishop. His pawn defense will save that. So it's one of those, how am I going to really go about this? I won't have a good spot to put the queen after that to defend the horse. So I thought about it for a little while, because again, it was correspondence and I've got my time. He does, of course, put up the pawn to block this nice juicy square, and I decided, let's see here, his king is all kinds of open. There's gotta be a way I can exploit that. That's been one of my huge themes recently, is when people move something and create that gap, I want to exploit it. And kind of looking at, if he's out here, how can I get close up in his face, play some shotgun chess, and punish him for it? I'm going to sacrifice another piece. It almost is a discovered attack on the rook per se, but the queen prevents that. But it's mostly the knight's in my way. So get out of here, knight. Sacrifice yourself. I do have the bishop, but he has my rook. So and I just gave up a horse. So I don't really want to go for that. I'm going to play a little bit slower first. I'll put him in check, force him into something. I value this check more because I know that he can't go here, he can't go here. I forget what it was I thought about this square. There must have been... oh, that's right. If he goes... I want to use the other color circle. If he goes there, then I can just take the bishop with check and then take the horse, and all of a sudden I've got everything. So this blue circle isn't really an option. He can't go in any of these three, which is going to leave him... You know what I'm going to do? Boom. Boom. Haha! The red circles. Which is going to leave him just these two squares, or two circles, to go into. And there's going to be a really awkward kind of position for me to be able to deal with that. He runs over here, and I'm thinking, okay, I just need to pin this horse. And I can pin the horse with the rook. So I'm going to castle into it, giving him a potential discovered check, which would be fantastic. He would get a free piece of whatever it is that he wants to get for free, except it's pinned as well. So there's a double pin going on. His knight is pinned, and at the same time, his knight is, like, well, discovered. I guess discovered is kind of like an offensive pin, you know? It's like a magic trick. Just, now all of a sudden this is different. So it's really interesting that I'm counteracting that very dangerous position by just allowing it to happen because it's pinned now, which is going to give me just a little bit of time. And all I have to do is get in its way and break said pin or move my king, and then I'll be in good standing from there. Plus, this bishop is still free. He still has to deal with that. So he's going to spend his time developing or opening up a slot for his bishop, but more importantly, protecting that one. You know what? That's nice. I don't even care. This is my chance now to block off that protection, so now my horse is free to take, or my rook is free to take him with check and proceed to attack in the game from there. And if he opted to just take said pawn, then fine, I take it right back with check and a piece, and attack on another piece that I will be taking for free. So he once again, he can't do that. He opts to just attack my queen, thinking it's going to force me to move it. But unfortunately for him, I'm not quite concerned about that anymore because this pin is now broken. I'm just going to take the horse first and put him in check, and we can already see, well, he can't go here, 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 or here. So it's really going to kind of limit his spots a little bit. And having both of my major pieces on a very open board, I'm going to have some room to work with. He decides to go there, and we're looking at checkmate. Just that fast, as this bishop is all the way covering that square. Obviously the queen's covering these squares and that square along with the rook. You can't go into those, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. 13 moves, and I threw pieces away. So it was very suicidal, very offensive, and very quick, and oh man, it was very fun. If he didn't go, I mean, I don't know what else works out better for him. If he... Oh, that's right. So he can't, even from this check, he can't go in that square, he can't go in those squares, can't go there, he can't go there. He's honestly only looking at those two, and this one is checkmate. So if he were to have moved here, We're still looking at mate in 1 with the exact same play, right? Because he wouldn't be able to go in those. Yeah, so either way it was mate in 1. It just didn't really matter at that point. So that's fantastic, and that's our first game. 10 minutes. That was way too long for that game. But that's all right. So we're going to close that and open up the second one. All right, here we go. Second game leads off queen pawn, and I love playing king's Indian against queen pawn openings. I don't know why, I always have. So as soon as I see this, I throw the horse out there. Against king pawn openings, I feel proficient enough with a lot of different things. I could match it, I could play Caro-Kann, I could play French. I will never play Sicilian, but I could even do one of the Indians as well. So I feel like I've got 4 or 5 ways to play against king pawn. But this is pretty much all I ever do for queen pawn. I just feel like it's really strong. Standard. Bishop first is a little unusual. Usually one of the knights comes out, but that's all right. I'm just gonna finish my little thing and not even give a crap about what he's doing. Don't care. And all right, so this seems a little early. There's nothing out here that I want to try and pin in, and the bishop doesn't need the flight square, so it seems a little early. I'm wondering if maybe he's thinking I'm just pushing this pawn and then going after my horse right away, but it needs to be defended first. And if so, eventually the rook comes crashing down. So maybe, but I feel like also at the same time, generally when people want to just crash, they move it up twice. So it does seem a little unusual, but today is the day of me making awkward moves on offense as well. There was a couple of games I had where this long bishop diagonal, because he didn't develop the horse, noticed a nice pinned rook. Or not pinned, blocked, whatever, rook. He's kind of stuck because the horse hasn't been developed yet. So I want to find a way where I can take advantage of that. And after some thought, I see one. Do you? Well, I'll show you. I throw out a suicidal pawn. It's a nice little sacrifice, nice little gambit. If he takes it, that's exactly what I want. If he doesn't take it, well, that's fine. I've just taken a little bit of space. I'll go after his center pawn with one of my flank pawns, so that's an advantage to me. Trading the C for the E, that's fine. You know, the more centralized they are, the better. So that'll be cool. It'll break up his defense in the middle a little bit, and I don't really lose much for it. I still have both of my centers. And of course, when pieces look free, they are very, very tempting to take, so he takes it. And that allows me, by moving this pawn out, I won. Now I have this diagonal, and I also was looking at moving the horse out, because that gives me multiple threats going toward all of his pieces over there. So I pull the queen out. It allows me to obviously attack this pawn and immediately take my material right back with better position, and it throws the check. You could do it with the horse, because then you're also... Let me just move it. Because then I'm also attacking the pawn, and I've now developed this long diagonal as well, so it kind of pins that. And if he wants to block it with the horse, well, my horse is here. I can take it. And if, let's just say, you know, something like that, my horse can take, he can take, triple his pawns, doesn't matter, I take with the check. So it's the same concept of exactly what I wanted to do with all of that, but I chose to do it with the queen first to give me that little bit of extra oomph on the field, and then the play is going to follow exactly the same way, just a little bit slower but a little bit more powerful. His horse is going to be the one blocking this check by developing, and I'm just going to straight attack it with my own, because it'll be pinned to his king. So he pops that out there, I plop that out there, and he can't go anywhere to attack mine, so he opts to move his queen for a little bit of extra defense. He can't defend it there. Maybe he could have put his queen here. This maybe could have been interesting. It would have given me a little bit more to think about, that's for sure. I probably still would have just proceeded with all the same sort of trades. I guess in that regard, it lets him attack the horse too. I don't think it matters though from what I was just thinking. I think I just had a brain fart really quick. So because that this is sitting here, I've got all of these pieces going after it, and he's only got 2 defending it, so that gives me a +1 advantage, and I'm going to get check out of it. So I take horse, and he actually resigned right here. 8 moves in once he saw it. If he takes pawn, or sorry, if he uses his pawn to take, then I get the check and the rook. I don't care if he trades, I still get the check and the rook. and his pawns are ugly. Granted, I guess this one's defended, so I can't take it yet, but you know, he'll move somewhere over there. This guy's mine. Now your bishop is blocked in. He can't even move there. You know, it's bad. It's just all kinds of bad. So that was that game in 8 minutes. So now we've done 8 minutes, 8 moves. So that's 2 games in 15 minutes. Aha! This game, oh crap, I forgot to move that back. You didn't see any of that. Game number 3. B3. Why? I don't know. I just felt like it. I spent a couple of days reading up on different openings, and B3 just caught my attention. Long time ago, when I was a senior in high school and I went to states, the team that I was playing on, my high school, we had, the way it works is you've got a team of 4, and if you have enough qualified players, you can put in multiple teams. So we actually sent 3 teams to states, and at the time, I was considered to be playing the first board, or the highest ranking of my team of 4, and the guy who was second on my team, he always led B3. That was just what he liked. It was so unusual, because who does this? You're essentially almost saying just pass and let black go, just for the sake of being able to activate and access that long diagonal very early on, which can be tremendously annoying. It's generally not considered that strong because you're giving up the initiative and the space. But he did it all the time, and he was really, really good. So I was just thinking about it one day, and was like, oh, you know, maybe I should use this now and then. So I just played B3. All right, well, we'll see how that one goes. You saw how the King's Indian game went when I played that in the last video, and that was bad. But this one I feel a little bit safer about. So, yeah, he does standard moves, takes up the space, no big deal. He doesn't want to move the king pawn because he knows I'll obviously be attacking it right away. But queen pawn's fine. I proceed to take my diagonal, moves out bishop again. Usually knights come out first, and it's because of that, in order to protect the rook in a very strange way. It gives it that one square where it can move. Plus they more immediately impact the center on 2 different squares depending on whichever knight it is that you throw out. So that's why. It's just they have the ability to jump for a reason. They generally come up before knights because of it. But whatever, no big deal. I bring my knight out to take control of that square, just in case, for whatever reason, he wants to start putting out pieces so that he can take control over it. I'm going to get 2 pieces before he gets 1. And I still have a pawn that can come up here and really take control of the center. So even though I spent a turn passing, he didn't do anything to take advantage of it. He blocks out his light squared bishop to develop his dark squared bishop, and that's fine. This guy's going to just be happy to sit on the main diagonal all game long, no big deal. But it confirms that he doesn't even have any plans of attacking for this whatsoever. I probably, and in the future, I will be pushing the d-pawn at this point to stop him from taking his control on the flank side with potential tempo. Or he'd be able to take it with tempo, but you know, that'll give me some time to develop my own bishop and still take control of the center. Since this being new for me, I wasn't aware that I should do that with the d-pawn, and I just go straight for opening up my bishop. He does in fact do what I expect and took over control with that, which would have been nice for me to move my d-pawn first, but it didn't. But at the same time, I'm thinking of it, and okay, here's just another moment where people make a move and it opens up some sort of space, it opens up some sort of weakness. And I just so happen to have developed said bishop. I can go in with a check. But what does this check actually get me? His light squared bishop is blocked off with his pawn, so he can't just block it off. It's often in situations like this when, you know, they move a pawn up and somebody brings a bishop down, you know, the person developed a knight first, so it's just pinned, or they just pull the bishop out and block off the same thing from being checked. But in his case, his is already developed first, the knight hasn't come out, and then he blocked it in. So if I were to attack after this square, well, he's going to have to block it with the knight in one of these spots. Oh, let's use blue circles. But what did we do last game? We put him in check so that he brought the knight out, and then I moved my knight to attack his, and in its pinned position. So I'm putting lots of pressure on a pinned piece. So I'm looking kind of at the same sort of thing. I also have this long diagonal sitting, just waiting for him to develop this dark squared bishop somewhere, which is another reason why if I had developed here, and then if he wanted to push so that he could get the tempo for it, then that's fine, I could just take there. But again, I didn't. So regardless, that's what I'm looking at now. I'm looking at the check and putting lots of pressure on a pinned horse, and that will open up a line for my queen. And just one other interesting thought that I've got in the back of my mind for right now. So again, moving as standard, putting lots of pressure on it. It does give him a little bit of time to figure out how he wants to play around with it. If he uses this time to attack, since it is, well, it's not undefended, but if he doesn't like all that pressure there and wants to relieve it, that's fine. That'll be my chance to trade out with that piece and open up this diagonal. So he can't really do that. He brings out his horse instead, and maybe he should have brought the pawn to attack. I'm not quite sure, because he obviously can't take this with the queen. He's going to have to just move, and there's no other way for him to defend it. So it's definitely a precarious position. Maybe attack the bishop straight up instead. I'm not quite sure. So he develops out his horse to protect this guy. There's still lots of pressure on it. It can't really move. So if I take and he takes, I just need this bishop to get out of here. So I need to buy a little bit of time, see if maybe I can put a little bit more pressure on some of these pieces. And as long as the horse is here, then this pressure on this knight is, I love how I just switch back and forth with horse and knight, is still around. So if I could get some extra attack on either this guy or on this guy, who is essentially like a clone, it's like extra hit points or something like that, fairy in a bottle, then that'll just further help my all the pressure that I've got out here. My bishop could, but this horse has to move first, and it's just not ready for that. So I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, I've got a nice little fianchetto over here. It's going to be nice and safe. Usually king side is safer, but with this, I feel like my queen side can be pretty safe too. So I'm thinking, if I double push the G pawn and just destroy my king side security, do I care? Because if I've got a pawn here, let's just say he took it, I can relieve some of that pressure for him by taking his bishop back, but then he just lost a pawn for a bishop. And he can't recapture because my queen is on it. So it'll save him from having to deal with that for a little bit, but he'll still lose out in the trade. If he wants to run away, I could actually still, if I really wanted to, trade the knight for the bishop. Or if he ran away, it would allow me to push my pawn and attack this horse, who then would have to move somewhere, and the pressure on this horse would then yet again become too great to bear. So I'm thinking it's a fantastic way. It won't give him time to go after my bishop or to get extra defense out here, because it's going to be attacking a piece and then attacking a piece. He doesn't have time to do his own attacks when I'm busy attacking him. So that's what I opt for. I destroy my own security with full intentions of castling queenside in this game, and see how he wants to respond. He ends up just ignoring the threat entirely. It looks like he's going to try and just castle out of this threat as fast as he can. And he's thinking, well, I'll attack an unprotected piece while he's got an extra defender on there still. But it's very risky. Yeah, you have that extra defender, but I've got multiple attacks at this point going on now, so I don't really know what was best for him, but I don't think that was it, and neither does the computer if we're looking at it. Computer considers him losing a pawn and a half on it. So this, I thought about this move for like 6 days. I don't know, because, well, what if I took there? What if I took there? And what if I took there? Like, I've got 3 different options of how I could proceed. Hell, because my horse is protected, I could actually, if I wanted to, just push and then attack him instead. You know, that's still totally viable. I'd lose, you know, my pressure on here if I were to, I don't know, push and then he take it. It's just, I have so many possible ways to attack this, and they all have different variations. It was a mess. Like, okay, what if I take, and then he takes, and then I take, and then he takes, and then I take? Okay, I think I went out in that regard. You know, it's just like, well, what if this, and then what if that, and what if all of these other things, and it was just such a mess. And at the end of the day, I decided that worst case scenario, it was too much for me to think about and too much for me to remember, and who knows how he's going to respond. At the end of the day, I figured I feel safest if I'm making trades with the equal pieces first instead of going with the bishop first. Plus the bishop brings check. So I kind of want to save that for the last move if necessary. Because if all of this gets really ugly and something happens where there's a hole or an opening, the last trade can be with check, which could give me some extra time, whereas in theory a horse, it's not going to be attacking anything. So if that's the last trade, he's going to have the initiative depending on how things look. So I figure it's safest to trade equal pieces, and I'm keeping the check piece, the piece with check, whatever, for the last possible option, and then he'll just have to deal with that at some point. We'll see how that all breaks down. So I take with the horse first. He then responds with his horse, which just pins this one, which is fine, but it does open this long diagonal. But then I'm thinking, okay, so this long diagonal is open. What if I took that? He could then move his rook and attack my bishop. I've got to move it out somewhere, and then once my bishop moves, let's just say I move my bishop all the way back here and this pawn is gone, well then he can just take this pawn, his rook will be defending, getting a free attack on my queen, and all of a sudden it starts to just look kind of ugly, and I don't really know what I do. And so once he's got that taken, do I just move my queen and close all this crap in? Do I try and block it off? It's a little at that point. And then this rook kind of becomes a little suspect as well. How is he going to respond if the king is still here and he's got an open rook on this open file with the bishop going in and attacking things? It just it didn't look very nice. So I figured maybe I should probably take this piece first, which is what I do just to prevent any shenanigans with that bishop. I still have this, by all means. It gives him a little bit of time to do something about it, but if he spends his time doing something about it, then this pawn can probably suicide at that point after already taking up some sort of advantage. And at that point, yep, there we go, 9 moves in, he ended up just resigning, being down the piece. He still has pressure over here. He saw that he couldn't push. If he pushes up here, then I'm just going to take this pawn, putting that additional pressure back of 2 pieces on the horse. So if he spent his time then taking that instead, because the pressure of it capturing is too great, well, then I have this, and there's not much he can actually do about it at that point. His castle is messed up, and I've got the free bishop, and my defense is great, and then I'm just going to end up trading there to simplify the board. So it was just a world of hurt for him very, very quick, and he just resigned instead of playing through it. So there we go. We're 3 games down at this point. That one took a little bit longer. It was a lot more complex and a lot more intricate, despite the fact that it was freaking only 9 moves. So now we're looking at 13, 8, and 9. It's but I did like it. There was a lot going on, and I don't feel like any of these were particularly bad. A lot of his moves at least made sense, aesthetically speaking, and developmentally. They just didn't work out for him. Anyway, we're gonna get to the last one, the most complex of these 4 games, the most intricate, and the closest one of all of them too. He leads off king pawn. I'm just matching it, standard array of moves, and then hey, that's my job, is to push b3. What the hell are you doing, man? That's kind of where I'm going in my games these days. Is b3? You're not allowed to do that. So I bring out my bishop first. I know I just said that it's good to bring out knights first. I did bring out one, not both, but I do that mostly because I want to get an extra solidified pawn for defense here, and I want to develop this light squared bishop and give me the opportunity to castle on either side. I generally don't feel safe castling queenside because I've never studied anything queenside related whatsoever, but if he's going to set up a fianchetto toward my kingside, I don't really like castling into it. Obviously it's still safe, like you're still going to be fine, just play around it and don't forget that it's there. But it feels it feels like I'm almost setting myself up for failure. There was one game I played a long time ago, and it was one game, so it means probably nothing, but I castled really early, and then in the next 4 turns I had all these pieces and pawns just staring in my face, and I got totally destroyed, and I'm like, how did that happen so fast? So ever since then, that's why I castle late in my games usually. And if I see a fianchetto like that open up, I want to at least give myself the opportunity to castle queenside, where his pawns are not going to... I mean, by pushing this one, it slowly, or it changes his speed of his pawn pushes just a tiny bit, and then his bishop is no longer directly angled. It'll be indirect, because it's going to take one more move to come after me. So anyway, that's why I wanted to move my black squared bishop out first. And I know he's also not going to push that pawn, so no big deal. And if he pushes that pawn, then we're going to have all sorts of trades happening. Obviously, it'll be quite a mess in there, which is exactly what he does. We're going to have quite a mess in there. I decide to take the pawn, and instead of recapturing with anything, because again, it would be a mess, he decides to take that opportunity to fianchetto the bishop, eyeing the exact same weakness that I just talked about in a couple extra games. Now he's got 3 pieces attacking this guy, and this is nice and juicy, but I'm at least aware of it. I can just develop the horse whenever it is that I want, although if I do develop the horse, he might just push and scare it away. So I'm going to have something to do to think about that, but I'm going to block this off first, and he decides to support his pawn, because obviously then I'm attacking an unprotected pawn, and he can't bring out his horse, because I would just take it. He could have put it... Let's back up a turn. He could put his horse here to protect, but then his queen is no longer on this pawn as well, and he's losing the numbers, because right now he's got 3 and I've only got 2. So he didn't want to do that. Granted, he kind of does the exact same thing with his bishop, so I don't really know, but I think pushing the pawn was probably stronger. I can't take it for free immediately either, because his horse is still on that. But anyway, I think that's what I would have done if I was him. So he defends it with the bishop. It does prevent me from pushing too, if I wanted, just to get in his way, so that's fine. And I now take this time to go all the way up. I want to really take control of the center. It was a move where I didn't really know what I want to do. Pushing up just 1 felt weak. I wanted to get this pawn out of here so that I could get some major pieces going and take control of this open diagonal. And I figured I'm probably going to have a horse move at least some point in here. So I really just wanted to capitalize on those things. I'd push up double squares to take the control of the main central options. You know, if he takes, well, I still have the horse that can recover it. Because he doesn't have the queen attacking on there, I don't need to worry about this pawn as much, because he just has the 2 pieces and I still have the 2 pieces. So I'm not going to lose anything, and it gets it out of the way. So that it was a tough move. I struggled with this one mightily. I did not feel like it was a very good position or a very strong place to be. Apparently the computer likes it, so that's cool. It thought I was at a pawn up anyway, and now it thinks I'm still a pawn up, so that's fine. But now he pushes his pawn to go after my horse. I thought he should have done it the turn before, but he does it now instead, which in a way is fine, because now I've got, you know, lots of squares due to my pawns being nice and controlled, which is really going to tighten up his space that he has available a little bit. And it gives me some options too. It's going to completely block this diagonal off for him for quite a while, and now that I've got this pawn here, he makes a nice little pivot for my horse. I can put him out there. If he wanted to trade for whatever reason, perfect. I undouble my pawns, no big deal. And this guy can't move, and this guy's already gone. So the horse is going to stay there a while unless he lets me get even more advantage out of it. And it's just really going to be a thorn in his side for quite some time. He takes this opportunity to castle, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if he brings the rook over, then he'll have 2 pieces attacking here, and I've got 1 defender. He's still got 2 pieces attacking here, but I've got 2 defenders for the moment, unless, you know, some trades happen here, because then, you know, we're looking at 2 attackers to 1 defender, and then it'll be 3 attackers to 2 defenders, so I could potentially lose 2 battles with that. So I didn't feel safe castling yet first, because I have to castle and then I have to pull my rook out to attack this pawn to be able to defend this horse up here, and I can't even do that yet. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I just need to pin the horse, but I can't trade that out. It'll reduce some of the pressure on my top D pawn, sure, but it'll just give me even more pressure on this knight, and then he's got all sorts of pieces angling down toward me, which is, it's just not what I want. It's what I want to avoid. That's a lot of things aiming at me. I don't want that. So I decided that my best option is going to be pulling the queen out first. No, it's not. I did move the bishop. I thought I moved the queen. Okay, so I moved the bishop, pin the horse. Sue me, I just lied to you for the last minute, but that's alright. I figured he would make it irrelevant, or maybe even push after my pawn to challenge me as far as how do I feel. I would just bounce it back here. Really, I thought... Well, I guess I wanted to pin it so that I could put my queen out here, because I don't want to put the queen there when his rook could potentially pin that to the queen. So that must have been why I dealt with the horse in the way I did. So my queen has this nice g5 square. Anyway, so he opts to defend it with his bishop, which I did not think was very strong. Clearly, it's now a second move with his bishop, so he's losing a little bit of time. It does reduce some of the pressure on this guy, but it also opens up a line for him. So it gives me some more time to think. If there were to be trades in this regard, you know, I could reduce some pressure on this guy. If this knight somehow were to leave and we do a million trades over here, then this bishop could potentially be free if he took, you know, the final piece. So it's interesting. There's just all sorts of attacks, all sorts of defense, and it's very ugly, and there's just too much to think about. Honestly, I wasn't having fun this game. I wanted it to just... I needed it to clear up and end because it was too much for me. So I opted just to take, one, to reduce the pieces and simplify the board a little bit. Two, because I figured once he recaptures with here, it'll help ease some of the pressure. You know, one attacker is now gone off of this pawn. And I know he's not going to want to take the horse, because that'll be perfect. I'll get a chance to undouble my pawns, which would be fine for me. So I don't think he's going to have any threat to really do that. I feel like in a way it's almost taking the bishop out of the game. And I knew in at least one, if not two, or at least two, if not one, his very next turn, he's just going to be going after my bishop anyway. So I figured I'll just do that before it becomes an issue. Once the knight is gone, that now makes this square safe. I don't have to worry about a pin or anything getting chased away, because if I ran away and then he double pushed, then it's like, oh shit, I just lost my queen. So I didn't want to have to really worry about that. He opts to take it right back. I take over the square with my queen, and then he pushes the pawn. It's often very respectable if you've got a piece that's being attacked and you can't really defend it. You know, I've said it in recent videos, you attack something of greater value so that they have to spend their time worrying about that instead of their own attack on your piece. And other times, if something's being attacked and you can't defend it, just move it. If it's about to die, make it do something. It'll mess up their position. You know, now my pawn is going to get ugly, or, you know, something else. You know, the pawn's going to go down, and he doesn't want my queen in a nice centralized square defending everything over here. So just push the pawn. Why not? It forces me to take. I do get some extra defense on this guy, so I'm not upset about that. But it is a little awkward. You know, this guy is backwards at this point. A rook can definitely capitalize on him. And having this opening isn't the greatest, but it is at least the light squared opening, which is definitely covered up by pawns. So it might not be as bad as if it was a dark squared opening over here. So we'll survive, I think. But then this is what really opens things up and starts to get some of the dominoes to fall. When you fianchetto your bishop on these two spots, it's very strong just to keep it there. Obviously, like for example, when you've got three pawns, they're all attacking all of these squares, all defending all of these squares. And when you push one, it leaves a couple of holes. Well, when you have the bishop, it's like you still have all of these pawns that are going after all of these squares. You just get a couple extra ones as well. So you don't have any sort of weakness. The bishop is really safe, and it gets this nice long diagonal that people often forget about. So he took 2 turns, essentially, to make that development, and then he goes back to cancel it. Yeah, he's attacking my queen for it. There's a couple spots I could put it. I could put it here, defend the horse. I could put it down here and claim that diagonal from you that you just abandoned. So there's some interesting things that I could do with that. I don't feel like it was very strong. You want to keep him here and then just start developing your other pieces first. You know, bring out the horse. You know, if we trade horses, then fine. It gives you a chance to move your queen up, and then look, now you have both rooks in the middle of the field. Like, there's something more to do with that, I would think. So I guess I had a few kind of options then. I opted to go right smack dab in the middle, so that I could capitalize on this diagonal with full intentions of just pushing this pawn, mostly just as a decoy so I can take his rook. Advantages of this square over that one, I don't remember. Oh yeah, no, hold on. No, that wouldn't be anything because I would just take it right back. That's not anything. Not quite sure. I guess I'm attacking here. If I wanted to drop my bishop down there, I could have a potential mate in 2. So I suppose that's something, as opposed to here you don't get any of that. But you could potentially castle and have multiple pieces all going after this pawn, but it's too guarded for now. So that's irrelevant. That's probably it, honestly, was my my mate in 2 possibility. So he develops his horse now. Obviously he can't go to this square, so he goes to the only other square that it's available to. And I figure, you know what, that's fine. I can let you take it. I've got multiple defenders on it, and I want to undouble this pawn anyway if I can, so that's fine. And I'm going to take my time to push this guy, because you're not really paying attention to him right now. And if he happens to take, then I've got some decisions. Because obviously I would have the rook over here, but then he's also looking at my other horse. So, okay, then it's a horse for a rook and a pawn. I would definitely need to start figuring something out. Start taking some extra stuff. Really just be playing a very awkward game at that point. Both of my files would be open. But I would have a slight advantage. I'd probably just castle queenside, you know, develop this rook over, and go from there. Plus, his bishop would be pinned. He wouldn't be able to use it if my queen were to take this rook. Because if he moves it anywhere, okay, I just take it. Or I trade with queens if I feel my advantage is big enough. So, unfortunately, he didn't seem to recognize that. I guess he wanted to either attack the center, or I'm not quite sure what that was, but he left that rook wide open. He didn't see the diagonal attack whatsoever, so I take the rook, and he resigns. I didn't feel very comfortable with this game. It was very, very ugly. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. So I feel kind of fortunate that he, for whatever reason, moved his bishop off the dark square after fianchettoing it. That gave me my opportunity to go take his rook. Regardless of whether I actually got the rook or not, the fact that he opened the door for it to happen really set back his position and his time. But I guess at the end of the day, that's all she wrote. So what are we looking at? 44 minutes? 44 minutes for 4 chess games. This last one definitely took a lot of extra time, despite the fact that it was 14 moves. So 14, 13, 9, and 8. But them's the breaks. So none of these were really in-depth enough, I don't think, to warrant their own video, or any combination of 2. 4 might have been too much, but I suppose probably 3 would have worked. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed these games. The first few definitely had some awkward moves, offensively and defensively, but I think they were a lot of fun all the same. And we'll have some more good games coming up on the way. So thank you guys for watching. Take it easy. Catch you later. Peace, everybody.